What's going on, people? It's Mr. back again with Nottingham Forest interviews, and it's a pleasure to interview ex-Nottingham Forest player Craig Armstrong. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having us on.
No worries, thank you very much. It's a pleasure for coming on my channel. And as everyone knows, Craig, another like I said, ex-Nottingham Forest player, and there's so many clubs that he's played for as well, but mostly this is about Nottingham Forest. And Craig, I'm going to start with, how old was you when you started playing for Nottingham Forest?
So I joined the club when I was 13. Well, I came to the club when I was 12 on trial. You're not allowed to sign for the football club back in my era until you were 14. So it was like a sort of associate schoolboys. Then you have a scholarship, then you have a pro. And I signed my contract before I turned 14. January for my 14th birthday. I turned 14 in May, and I signed a contract when I was 13, and it was put in a draw, so no one else could sign me. So, but I actually didn't start playing football till I was sort of under 12s. I played rugby to start with. I was quite I liked football, but there was no football teams where I lived in Durham, or my dad couldn't find one for me to get involved in. And I think it was just because I ended up playing a couple of school games, played a couple of district games, and I got asked to go and play for a Sunday League side in Chelsea Street, which was like 2-3 miles up the road from me.
So like I said, you started with Forest when you were young, but I know you must have met Brian Clough, and I know you've got loads of stories to talk about. The first time you met Brian Clough, what was you like, starstruck, or what was the first words that you said to him?
So I love playing football, but I didn't follow football. I used to just go and have a kick around with my mates. Wherever I went out, when I was back home, I used to go out on the streets with my mates and friends. They used to take football with me all the time. Used to take football with me. They were terrible at football. I was all right. I used to take football with me. And so when I got asked to come on trial at Nottingham Forest and I was asked to sign, they wanted me to obviously meet the gaffer, Mr. Clough. And my mum, we drove down on the Friday to stop in the Gallery Hotel, which is on Radcliffe Road, just opposite McDonald's, which is now, I think, being converted. That was run by Don Maston, the ex-Scotland captain, who used to play for County. Yeah. So we used to stop there. Don and his wife used to look after us. It was, it was fantastic. So we drove down on the Friday night, went for a meal at Antonio's. That's no longer there. Used to be next door to South Bank.
Yeah.
And on the Saturday, we went to the City Ground. I remember the game playing Charlton. I think we finished third that season in the league. Des Walker was playing at the time. We're still at the football club, and we went before the game. Went to meet Brian Clough, and I was told, when you speak to Mr. Clough, either call Mr. Clough or Gaffer. So Brian came into his office, and we all stood up, and he just said hi to my dad and my mum, and then said hello to my brother, and he said, "Oh, you're quite tall," that type of thing. And he turned around to me and he just said, "So you're the young man signing for me?" Now, I'd only come down to meet him. I hadn't agreed to sign for the football club because I was at Middlesbrough Centre of Excellence. I'm a Sunderland fan. I'd been to Newcastle. I've been to Leeds. I've been to a lot of clubs on trial. And as soon as he said, "So you're the young man signing for me," I just looked up and I went, yeah, I am. And actually, that's what I ended up doing. And I don't know if it was a bit of peer pressure, but that was my first sort of introduction into the gaffer.
Did it ever tell you off?
Yes, he did. So I don't know. Am I allowed to swear on here?
Of course you can. Go for it.
So I had a really good relationship with the manager. I wasn't scared of him. I can just paint a little picture about in the boot room. The lads used to clean boots match days. Whenever the manager used to come down the corridor, come through from the offices, the lads used to hide behind walls or wherever it was. And whenever the gaffer, and you didn't see him very rarely during the week. And when he used to come down, I used to always say, "Morning, gaffer, you okay?" And he goes, "Hi, Mr. Armstrong, how are you?" And anyway, in the second year of my scholarship, we played Millwall in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. We drew 0-0 away. We're playing at home, 2-0 up at half time. We ended up getting beat, I think it was 3-2. And they had a decent side at the time, Ben Thatcher, Mark Kennedy, who went on to Liverpool. They had a really decent side, but we were good. Paul McGregor, myself, Vance Warner, who played. Warner. So John Finnegan had a career at Cheltenham and Lincoln, Justin Walker the same. And so we had a decent side. Anyway, we got beat. And I remember from the first leg that Mark Kennedy was decent. So at the time, I'd been involved with the first team. I wasn't allowed to play any reserve games, any youth team games. No, I went back and played in the FA Youth Cup. Then we didn't play the replay for a month, and I was just training with the first team, and then I ended up playing this FA Youth Cup game. 20 minutes, 3 times I've tried to smash Mark Kennedy, just go through the back of him, and he's just jumped over the top of me, skipped past me. 2-0 up at half time, absolutely hammering me. Disgrace, shocking, but every obscenities you could think of, swearing at me. Archie Gemmell, yeah, everything.
Archie Gemmell as well?
Yeah, John Perkins, obviously, God rest his soul, who obviously passed away a few years ago. Fantastic coach. Hammered me. You had Alan Hill, hammered me. All hammered me.
Wow.
Now, I remember sitting on the bench for the first team at Middlesbrough away, and I remember something happened in the game, and I remember Ian Wone turned around and said something.
Legend.
To the lad I was sat with on the bench said, "Don't worry, the gaffer will never forget that." So the back of my head, I knew that Brian Clough would never forget anything that happens. Anyway, fast forward 2.5, 3 weeks later, I'm not involved with the first team. I've been binned off from the first team. Nothing's been said to me. I'm walking back from the training ground down the river, and you've got the new boots where they had the old dome, and there's a rugby pitch there. So you used to walk past there, and you got the boots.
I remember.
So the first team were training, and Des Walker, I think, was on international break, and he wasn't included in the England squad, so he was back training with the first team. He'd come back from Italy, so he must have been on international break over there, window or whatever. And I'm walking back, and you imagine the 6-foot tall wired fence. I can see the first team training. Yeah. And Brian shouts, "Armstrong, come here!" And all I could think of was, I've sprinted, and I'm talking, I've got like 100 metres to get to the bottom of the gates, and then 100 metres to get back. I'm sprinting to get back to him. And he just stops the training. Everyone stop. So the whole training ground, everything stops. You've obviously got Piercy's there, Des Walker, Nigel, Steve Stones, Scotty Gemmell, all the boys are all there. And he just stops me in front of the whole first team. He says, "You ever play like that again, I will myself quickly. You ever got here?" So I've obviously gone up, tail between my legs, back up the training ground, back up to the ground, do my jobs, doing the cleaning, doing my boots. And if anyone's ever been into the ground and you walk into the sort of the main door from the front where the Jubilee Club is, and you've got the referee room, then there's another sort of corridor on the left that takes you to the laundry room. Yeah. That's where the coaches used to sit, the officers. So I'm doing my jobs, and all you can hear is, "Armstrong, come here." So I'm just thinking, not again. So I walk into the offices. "Hi, Gaffer, take my jog for a walk now. Don't come back for half an hour." Now, took the dog over the bridge. Don't need to leave, by the way, for the dog. Just over the bridge, walk past Notts County's ground, all the way down, back up. And I'm stood outside the gates thinking, I like that going, half an hour. So I walked in, says, "Gaffer, there you go. Thank you, Armstrong. There you go, son. There's 20 quid. See you later." And that was it. Never, ever mentioned again.
Wow. Oh, legend.
Then after that happened, I think a week later, I was back in his first team squad training, been involved in either sub or not subbing till the end of the season. Honestly, It was surreal.
That's mad. That is mad.
You speak to anyone, he had a really good habit of really knocking you down to earth and then picking you back up.
Wow.
He was really good at that.
That's amazing. I spoke to ex-Forest players, but that's mad. That's mad. You said about your training sessions with players like Des Walker, Stuart Pearce, Clough, Steve Stone. What was it like training with them kind of players?
Well, I mean, I can't remember as far back as that, because and what we did in training, it was a lot of five-a-side, a lot of sort of a circle, keep ball in a circle type thing, 2 in the middle and run around. And I can't remember, we never trained a lot. You know, as daft as it sounds, you'd be down at the training ground putting goals out for the first team, and the first team hadn't even turned up. So you're down there 30, 40 minutes earlier. Then all of a sudden, the manager's dog would walk into the training ground. You knew the gaffer was coming down. It wasn't very rarely to visit the training ground. He'd just come down every now and again. The dog would walk through the training ground, and the gaffer would shout, "John, the boys have done enough, send them in." I hadn't even trained. He'd just send us in, weren't allowed to train. So that it was like surreal in that way. So if you ask me what training was like, listen, it was phenomenal. Roy Keane was obviously at the club at the time, and to be involved in those sort of boys. But I remember doing a circle, and I was stood next to Stoney, and I had a good relationship with Steve because obviously from the northeast, he used to bring us down sometimes when we used to go up. And it was these little like golden nuggets when people tell you something, you remember it. So it was, as daft as it sounds, because we were never ever coached, you had to figure it out for yourself. As the ball's coming to me, if you give it away, you go in the middle and you just chase. And what Stoney said to me, he said, just listen, before the ball comes, just have a picture in your head where you want it to go to. So as the ball's on the travel, have a little picture in your head. Can you move it left? Can you move it right? Can you take a touch? Can you go through the middle? So it sort of helped me understand that not to control the ball, then be closed down, then get my head up and then pass it. It was to try and have a head up. So I learned from Stoney just to do that.
Okay.
Little things like that you learn from different people, from Nigel, from Stuart, from all these experienced players that I was never coached. I had to figure it out for myself. Where if you speak to football, well, you know football now. Everyone's coach. Everyone understands the philosophy, how people play, styles of play, what managers want. I was never given that. We were told, get the ball as a fullback, give it the winger. Your first job is to stop a cross. That was as simple as it was.
Was you, like I said, you as a defender, Craig, and like I said, with players like Stuart Pearce and Des Walker, did you learn anything from them too?
Yeah, so PC, I just remember Stuart saying to me, listen, when you go out on the press to go and pressurise a wide boy, sometimes you can't get there on his first touch. It's just unrealistic to do. So what you've got to recognise is if someone's going to overload and sort of overlap and sort of get on the outside or on the inside, you need to figure out what the danger is. And what he actually taught me to do was weigh up the scenario. If you can get there, great. If you can't, he advised me to sort of, I try and explain it, to sort of drop off and allow the wide player to have the ball, but he wanted me to sort of narrow the pitch. And what I mean by that, instead of coming in field sort of vertically, he wanted me to go on a diagonal run where I'd be running backwards on a 45-degree angle towards my goal. So what that did is it encouraged the wide player to keep coming at me and then always took with me. And I remember playing for Forest Green Rovers and we're playing away at Fleetwood. Jamie Vardy was at Fleetwood at the time. Yeah. And the manager at the time, Dave Hockaday, who ended up going to Leeds for a little bit.
Leeds manager, yeah.
So Dave was my coach, was a fullback. And I'm 35, 36 at the time. And I've always took that scenario to then 2v1, what Stuart told me, captain England, played for England over 50 times for his country, absolute legend again. I looked up to him. And I remember we played, put the cross in, I think the keeper caught it or went out the back because they've got to stand it up, you see, to get it over the top of me. Yeah. I came in at half time and Dave Hockaday weren't having it. I don't want you doing that. Well, what do you want me to do? He says, I want you to let him play the ball. Because why would you do that? I said, surely if I just, what he wanted me to do is he wanted me to actually go with a runner and leave the man on the ball on the edge of the box. So, but if I go with a runner, he'll just have a shot or he'll pass into someone else. So I don't care. That's less danger. And in the end, I just said, listen, Dave, sorry, I'm 36-year-old. I says, are you telling me that Stuart Pearce, who played for England, who gave me the advice that I've just done in this game is wrong? Because if you're telling me that, then he shouldn't have had the career he had. Wow. And he didn't know what to say to me.
Well, yeah, and his career went well, hopefully, didn't it? Fast forward that quickly, like, you played a few loan clubs, like you played for Burnley, Bristol Rovers, Gillingham and Watford. Did you learn did you gain any experience from playing for them clubs? Yeah, I think that was invaluable. Going out on loan, I think it was the best thing the club did for me. So my first loan was to Burnley, which obviously what would have been like what you class as the Championship now. I think I just turned 19. Jimmy Mullins was the manager, and he was the manager, Geordie guy, so he brought me in. They had Adrian Heath, who played for Everton, won the league with Everton, or I think the European Cup or UEFA Cup. Yep. Kevin Harp, who played for Everton. You had Jamie Hoyland, who played for Sheffield United. Ted McMinn, who played for Derby. Had really experienced side, and it was quite surreal because I'm playing against a Southend, actually were the Championship at the time, or the old second division. So now the Championships. Well, I'll keep referring it so people who are younger understand it was the Championship level. So they had Chris Powell was playing left back. They had a really good side where a lot of boys moved on to bigger and better things. My first game, we ended up winning 5-1.
But before the game, the manager said to me, so I joined on the Friday, played on the Saturday. So the manager came up to me and said, listen, don't worry about what happens today. This is going to be the best day of your life. You're making your Football League debut. Whatever happens, you'll never forget this day. You'll have a blind day. It was really good. So coming at the end of the game, 1-5-1, got man of the match. Come up to me, said, well played, outstanding. Came in on Monday. The manager never spoke to me again for another month.
Wow.
Never spoke to me for a month. Just never spoke to me.
Wow.
So I'm like, what's going on there? So come to the end of the month, pulls me in the office, says, yeah, I want you to stay again. Will you stay for another month? He goes, yeah, Jimmy, no problem. I said, listen, I don't get it. Like, you've not even spoke to me for a month. He goes, oh yeah, sorry, yeah. No, don't worry, I'll be all right. So I signed another month, never spoke to me again.
Wow.
He was just a strange guy. But for sort of a lesson, what I'm trying to say is that I was playing in where it mattered for points, where you played in front of a crowd, you a lot of nerves and sort of excitement to play, and also understanding that, looking back now, that manager was there to manage, not to be my friend. You know, if you were crap, you know about it. If you weren't, you know, that type of thing. So did I learn from that? Yes. I learned from Bristol Rovers with John Ward. I mean, I ended up playing for John Ward at Cheltenham later on in my career. Yeah. What a great guy, top manager. One of the best managers I've played for, who just honest, would give you a bollocking, but would really good manager. And I went and then played for
Gillingham.
Kenny Jackett, played for Kenny Jackett at Watford.
Yeah,
he was
Watford,
fantastic coach. Taught me a lot of stuff. Did I see eye to eye with Kenny? Yes, I did, but he wanted to bring a lot of younger kids through the system at the time. So I probably didn't enjoy my time as much there as what I did elsewhere. Went to Gillingham with Tony Pulis. Yeah. Tony, what a fantastic man. First time I've ever in my life played 11v11 shadow play. Never done shadow play in my life. Never, until I went to Gillingham. Until I went to Gillingham. And we played shadow play against no one. So 11 players against no one. Patterns of play. So I'd never done patterns of play. I'd come from an era at Forest, get the ball, give it to the wide man, run forward, get in the box, you might score a goal. Stop a cross. Make sure your first thing you're going to do is be a defender. So I went and I'm doing first training session, 11 players against no one. So I'm playing left back. And what he wanted me to do, he wanted me to get the ball and put it in the channel. I've never put a ball in the channel. When I went on loan to Bristol Rovers, I used to kick the ball in the stand because I never had the technique to be able to kick the ball in the channel. I used to find the stand more than I found because all I was taught was pass the ball 5-10 yards. That was my job. I didn't have to complicate things. When I was told I had to put a ball in the channel for a purpose, I couldn't do it. When I put a ball in the channel because I had nothing else on, I could do it. As daft as it sounds. So working with Kenny Jackett, that taught me, he taught me the technique on how to strike a ball better. So that was the first time I sort of got coached a little bit on how you kick a ball and how you strike a ball, and which is strange. Tony Pulis was first time I've ever done 11 shadow play against no one, and I remember getting the ball and putting out a play. And I remember one of the lads, I think it was Guy Butters at the time, played for Spurs, turned around and he says, Guy's gone, Craig, have you never done shadow play before? I said, shadow play? I says, I only do 5-a-sides and keep ball session. I said, I've never had to kick the ball this far. He said, I can tell you keep kicking out of play because exactly, I've never had to kick it as far. so I learned a lot from Tony as well. You know, doesn't surprise me on how good he is as a manager and what he does and how he's been successful. Never ever been relegated. You know, very rigorous on his methods and his organisation. Can't fault him for that. John Ward again, fantastic. And you know, listen, I think if I could say anything for anyone who wants advice and you're at a Premier League football club, if you have an opportunity to go out on loan, whether you're going to play or not play, I would do it because experience in different environments and different sort of washing your own kit. Forest, I used to have my kit washed for me at Forest. So I'm going to Bristol Rovers and I'm having to pay the kit man, so I'll pay someone to wash my kit for me. I'm going to Watford, I'm washing my own kit. I'm going to Gillingham, I'm washing my own kit. I signed for Huddersfield, I had to wash my own kit.
Fast forward, can you remember your first Forest debut? Because I only can remember the I think it was 97-98 season. And I couldn't find no footage of your Forest debut. When was your Forest debut?
Well, so I've had this question asked to me before. I thought my Forest debut was against Doncaster. but it wasn't. It was actually against Swindon away. I came
What year was it? What year was it?
It would have been 97-98 season when we got promoted.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, so I sat on the bench when I was for Brian Clough when I was in 90. So I joined the club in 91-92 season, and then Brian Clough was 91 to 93. So it was 91, 92, 93, and I was on the bench 5 or 6 times in the Premier League under Brian, and then I was on the bench a few times under Frank. Never played, and then when Harry came in, that's when I got my opportunity. Yeah,
because I remember. I think you scored in that year. I think it was against Walsall.
That was my first goal. So I scored direct from a corner.
Yeah, did you?
Yeah, so went straight in. Steve Chettle was at the near post. I thought he'd flicked it on, but he said it went straight in. So James Walker, the ex-Notts County keeper, who was obviously Walsall, West Ham, Wax gone down by the near stick and couldn't keep it out. People are trying to say it was no goal, but I think he just couldn't keep it out and it went in. So directly straight in. We obviously lost the game.
Yeah, Walsall's a bigger team.
Yeah, we lost on aggregate that day. You conceded a poor goal to draw 2-2. I think I came off the bench in the first game as well, or might have even started the first game.
It was like a Port Vale?
No, Walsall. Sorry.
Walsall, yeah, sorry.
Swindon was my debut, and I played then. I came off the bench. I didn't come off the bench against Doncaster, but started the next game against Doncaster in the cup.
8-1.
Yeah, because we'd won 8-1 away. I think we drew.
Yeah.
We drew. Might got by 2-1 off Doncaster in the second game.
Yeah, we beat 8-1 at their ground, I think, and then we lost to 2-1 at our ground. Yeah. I remember that game.
Yeah, Harry made a lot of wholesale changes, and then I think my sort of full debut would have been then I started playing sort of Walsall, and then I had a few games when I was in now. But it was great to be part of a successful side.
Like I said, it was a fantastic side we had. I remember I saw the video clips in the changing room away to West Brom, and what was it like being in that atmosphere, like celebrating winning the league?
Yeah, so I think I played in 19 games that season.
Yeah, it was on loan, wasn't you?
Yeah, no, I wasn't on loan. I played in about 19 games that season.
For Forest.
Yeah.
Okay.
But either sub or starting. But I think it was about 57 games that season. I was involved in 47, 48 of the games. So I was either on the bench or I was playing.
Yeah.
And I wasn't involved in the last game of the season at West Brom. We'd already been promoted anyway, because obviously they beat Reading.
Yeah.
Special
day.
Yeah, went on the bus with the lads in the stand, went on the pitch afterwards and in the dressing room. It was just it was a surreal sort of moment when we got promoted anyway. I would have been in the A block at the time, because we're not in the A block, in the far end. So we had season tickets. We had our normal tickets were always at the family end, sort of in. So come out of Jubilee and up the back end. So what was it, F block or something like that?
F block, yeah.
Yeah. It was surreal, and I've watched the highlights of that promotion season quite a few times, and
I've watched it all the time, Craig. I've watched it all the time.
The celebrations at we went to the Commodore Club, which is now Flats, which is on going out towards Baseford.
Baseford, yeah, on the corner.
We had a presentation there, and
was it there?
Yeah, well, we had like a presentation where I think we represented our medals, not our normal medals, but the medals you put around the neck.
Yeah.
We had it there. It was like a fans one where we went and Harry was there and got up and said his bits, and yeah, it was fantastic.
And like I said, they won the league, and then the trouble started with I think it was Colin Cooper left Nottingham Forest, and then Kevin Campbell left for the Transport, the Turkish side, and then and then, as it's been documented, Pierre Van Hooydonk went on strike. What was your opinion on what was going on?
Well, so had Kev not gone, had Coop's not been sold, had Pierre not obviously gone on strike, I think we would have been all right that season. We probably needed 1 or 2 more additions just to strengthen it. Listen, I feel very privileged because of what happened. I ended up playing.
You played, didn't you? So it worked out for you.
Yeah. But people always ask me, like, well, I would have been frustrated not playing, but I would have learned more being on a bench, playing the odd game here and there in the Premier League, and being part of a successful side stay in the league and then build from there to then get the opportunity, because Harry liked me. Harry valued me and did think I had the potential. And obviously Colin got injured. So what happened is Colin was actually starting against Arsenal on the Monday Night Football. Now they thought Colin would have been fit. So I played against, in fact, it was the Tuesday before the Monday we played PSV. And I played a reserve game against Birmingham, and Colin had got injured on the Tuesday or the Monday, whenever we played that game. I can't remember what it was. I think that's how it happened. And then as it happened, come to the Monday night, I ended up playing. So I knew I was playing because Colin was injured. Obviously, Kev had just been sold. Pierre had obviously gone on strike, and it's well documented why he did that. And, you know, I didn't think anything of it other than that. It's just another game of football. And sort of, as you look back now, it was obviously detrimental to what happened to, and sort of, I suppose, a part of the capitulation of the football club, really, and that era with the sale of Kevin and Pierre.
Like so many players left, like I say, Kevin, Colin. I think, did Scott Gimble leave as well?
Scott eventually left. Stoney went to Villa. Listen, we were all frustrated what Pierre did, but I know why he did it. Everyone gets it. Everyone understands. I just felt like he could have done it differently. He could have come back and he could have gone on the transfer list instead of doing what he did, because, you know, yes, listen, I played because of that, not just solely because of him, but I played because of that, and I'm very privileged that I played in the Premier League. But had he been there, then we might have still been in the Premier League, and this club might have been established now in the Premier League because of that success. But I'm not saying he's the fault of that. He's not the reason because of that. But it was also the owners of the football club didn't want to invest. They got rid of Harry, and they should never have got rid of Harry. It was a poor timing for the football club and what happened and everything. And you can't just blame Pierre. You can't blame Cams. You just got to blame the whole scenario around no money to spend, Harry being sacked, and just that whole difficult sort of scenario.
Like you mentioned you played against Arsenal. I think it was a Friday night game. It was a Friday night game.
Monday night game.
Monday night game.
And we were obviously won the league, and they'd won the FA Cup and the Premier League. So we were drawn out as obviously Championship winners, and they're winners of the Premier League. And that was the sort of Monday Night Football was something that everyone wanted to do. Monday Night Football was always new, where now it's every night. But Monday night was like, if you played on a Monday night, it was great sort of experience. Under the lights at Highbury, fantastic sort of climate. I can remember it to this day what it was like, and just
what was it like? What was it like playing against that star-studded team? Was you nervous?
No. So listen, this is how I remember the team talk. So Harry was brilliant. He would have a conversation about things, but be thinking about probably the fourth sentence before he's finished the first. So it was always quite fast, that type of thing.
Yeah.
I just remember in the Championship when we used to have team talks, Harry always backed us that would win the Championship. It was always to win the league. He knew he would. He believed in us, and he, behind closed doors, he said, listen, we'll win the league. You know, that was something he never documented, but he had belief in the squad he had, with obviously the additions of Alan Rodgers, Andy Johnson, and a few others.
Yeah.
So every game we used to go into in the Championship with a flip chart paper, used to go like Middlesbrough, goalkeeper, whoever it was, average, just shoot. Everyone was average. And then there'd be one player, not bad, you've got to be on your mettle. Alan, Tank, you got to be good, you got to be careful. Or Stoney, this and he'll try and kick you, all that. So watch your Pierre, you'll want to go through the back of you because he's that type of player. So there's only ever one or two in a team. Everyone else was average. That was how I remember it.
Yeah.
So we play in Arsenal away. We're in the hotel. We're in a conference room. And he flips over the thing and he goes through the team and he's gone, like, David Seaman. Tapping the board, he's gone, world class. World class. Lee Dixon. World class. Unlucky, he's unlucky, you know. Gary Neville playing for England, he'd be unlucky to have more caps. He went, Tony Adams, what a leader, natural leader, born leader. Went Keown Dashville, watch out, you want to smash, he's quick. You know, he should have had more caps for England. Winterburn, he's just unlucky. He's got a fucking Australian playing for England, Tony Dorigo, and he got Stuart Pearce, that type of thing. Right? So he's going through this whole team. And I remember this today, he just points to the board and he points at Petit and Vieira and he taps the board, he says, these two players here are the best players in the world at the moment. They've just won the World Cup.
Look what he said.
I would swap any one of you in this room for these two players. I'd drive you down there and I'd take these. So these are the best players in the world. So he's going through the team. He's going Overmars, Tank, be careful. He's quick. He's gone Ray Parlour. He's probably their weakest player, but he's still world class. Played for England, that type of thing. Then he just points at the board of Bergkamp and Anelka.
Yeah. And
he just taps the board, looks in the room, and he just says, "Lads, just face it, we're fucked. Come on, let's go." So listen. I suppose the story behind that is that his team talk relaxed us.
Yeah.
Because he's gone through the team world class, and we're all going there. What? And they go, "Well, just face it, lads. We're fucked. Come on, let's go. Don't worry about it." And it's a surreal thing to see. And listen, that's how I remember it. And whether I've made that up in my own head, but that's how I remember how, like Dave Bassett was on how he would sort of try and get the best out of you. Listen, we lost the game 2-1, but we actually played really, really well. Jeff Thomas scored wiser, and then Overmars scored the sort of where Best saves it, and then he hooks it over the top of Dave's head. So it was a surreal sort of moment, but it was, I suppose, listen, that season was, again, some of the teams, some of the players in that era that you can talk about at Chelsea, your Bergkamps, so your Laudrups and your sort of Vialis and your Zolas and all these players are just,
the game against Derby, I think you drawn 2-2, and I think that was the time when Pierre came back on strike. And before the Derby game, I know fans will talk about, make sure you do this, make sure Derby don't win. What was it like before the Derby game? And as well with Pierre Van Hooydonk coming back as well.
Again, it's hard to sort of recollect on what we went through before the game. And I've seen the highlights and I've watched the highlights again, and obviously Pierre scores. I think it was Pierre's third or fourth game back, and he scores it and he goes flick on, and not many of us went over and celebrated. I don't think I went over and celebrated him because
I think the only one was, I think it was Terry Ballet. He was the only one.
I think Tank went over as well at one point, and I think
he didn't go up. He didn't go.
I can't remember what happened, but whether it was just a show of like, listen, we're pissed off here, and then after that I think everything was fine. But it was some great atmosphere. Should have really won the game, if I'm being honest. We had some good chances. I think Dougie scored as well. Dougie Freeman scored.
Yeah, Freeman scored.
It was. Listen, full house, under the floodlights. You can't ask for much more not to lose a game, but we should have won it really. And looking back again, to be part of a football club like the Nottingham Forest and sort of the history of the football club and the sort of the rivalry between a Derby and a Nottingham Forest was always the same whenever we played in the youth team, the reserves. It was always the same when I went into the coaching environment and I coached teams against Derby. It was always, this is how we're going to play. But when we play against Derby, it's not about how you play, it's about winning a game of football. And it meant that much, as daft as it sounds. And and we used to have a decent record against Derby when I grew up playing in reserves and youth teams. So I was quite fortunate where I didn't lose many games at all.
I mentioned it. I interviewed Alan Rodgers as well, and you mentioned your name when Forest got battered against Man U 8-1, and you started as well. What was it like, Craig? Get in.
Yeah, so I mean, again, I get a lot of stick from this from one of my mates. Keeps talking about, you're on the pitch, because obviously I was playing centre back at the time. But that game I played left back and Alan played left wing. And I can tell so many different stories on how it looked to me. But listen, we got battered by a better side. We weren't good on the day. We lacked in too many departments. I wouldn't say we lacked character. I just think we lacked a bit of self-belief, and I don't think Man United had to try hard to beat us just on that day. It was just one of them days where everything they did happened. I think I went off the pitch on about 70 minutes. I think Solskjaer come on about 70 minutes.
Alan mentioned it. Something about Alan was confused why he took you. Why
he went to left back?
Yeah, why he took you off? Because I think they were doing okay, but then
we were. So all I remember. So I remember. I mean, this is how I remember it. And if you speak to anyone else, they'll remember it totally different, because we all paint a picture. I wasn't great by any stretch of imagination, but at the time you've got, obviously, Gary Neville played wide right, Scholesy and Keane in midfield. You had Blomqvist playing wide left, and you had Jaap Stam and Ronnie Johnson or playing at the back, with Dennis Irwin played left back and Schmeichel in goal. Then you've got Cole and York up front.
Yeah.
Right? And then you've obviously got Sheringham and Showstart to come on if they need to. So we've got, I think Chet's was injured. I don't think Chet's played that day. I'm not sure.
No, we didn't.
So you had Carlton Palmer played left centre back. I played left back. Tank played left wing. Stoney right wing, and I think Thierry Bonlay or Des Little played right back. And then we had John Hawkes played right back, and then we had another centre back, and I can't remember who played centre back. Whether it was Blom, a boy from Jesper. I can't remember the guy.
Jesper Martin.
He came on a sub, I think. Anyway, well, what I just remember every time I used to so David Beckham would be on the halfway line. Gary Neville would roll the ball to David Beckham. David Beckham would roll the ball back to Gary Neville. Because our two centre-backs were 20, 30 yards deeper than us, Dwight York and Andy Cole just were running riot. You've got to get closer to fucking Becks. He's taking the piss. I've gone, Scott, what do you want me to do? I said, I'm sprinting 20 yards, just close him down. He rolls the ball to Gary. He fucking rolls it back to Becks. He rolls it back to Gary, puts it in behind my head. The two centre-halves are 30 yards deeper than me. What am I meant to do? And just remember Ron Fenton went, in all fairness, Scott, he's got a fucking point. How fucking deep are we? And obviously then Solskjaer comes on. We end up getting beat 8-1. And I remember Ron coming in at the end of the game and just said, this fucking disgrace. Didn't get us in on Sunday. Didn't get us in. Coming on Monday, I just remember running. We just ran. It'd been snowing as well, so we were doing a keep ball session, little circle while we're running. It was keep ball, run, keep ball, run, keep ball. So when we're keeping the ball, someone else was running, and we just did that for about 2 hours. It was horrendous. It was horrible, and listen, rightly so, by the way, because it just wasn't good enough. But I get ribbed for that, and I'm always saying, listen, I wasn't on the pitch, like to me. Now I can't remember if I played well or didn't play well, but we didn't play well because we got beat 8-1. But I suppose I look back at it now and people can talk about we got beat 8-1, but we got beat 8-1 off an unbelievable side who had 20 years of success and won 13 or 14 Premier League trophies, FA Cups, European Cups, and that season they won the treble. So you can't, David Beckham played 120 times for England, Paul Scholes played for England, Nicky Butt played for England, Roy Keane, absolute legend of the game. They were unbelievable to what we were. And we had John Harkes, and no disrespect to John Harkes. Ron brought John back from America.
He played free game from, didn't he?
So he come back from America, and maybe John wasn't up to the speed and an absolute talented player. But I'm not saying that's his fault, but that's how it was. Now, when anyone asks me how that game evolved, I always talk about, Alan Rodgers would sprint and close Gary Neville down. He'd roll the ball to David Beckham. David Beckham would hit a ball 70 yards to Jesper Blomqvist. He'd cross the ball and they'd score. Yeah. That's how I remember it. That's not how it happened. But that's how I remember it. But it was not a nice sort of time, but you could say that. And again, when Man U won the other day 9-0, I wanted to text my mate and say, you can't tell me we were bad. Other teams are getting beat 8. Arsenal got beat 8-2 off them. When Man United were on Song or on Arsenal, they could beat anyone, in that era.
It's strange, man. Like I was looking through something, and when it like you lost 8-1, and then did they sell you like 2 weeks after that?
I can't remember. I mean, so Huddersfield came in for me
in February.
It was in February, and Ron pulled me. I actually knew Huddersfield had made an offer because Marcus Stewart, the striker at Huddersfield, is a friend of mine, and he rang me while I was going into training. And so, Stuart, how are you doing? He goes, oh, yeah. Craig, our gaffer wants to speak to you. Oh, okay. So Peter Jackson at the time comes on the phone and says, Craig, I want you to come and join the football club. He goes, okay. He says, yeah, I've put a bid in. Oh, have you? He goes, yeah, I put a bid in 2 weeks ago because I've never heard anything about it, to be fair. We'll put a bid in for you. So Ron Atkinson knew about it, but didn't pull me until sort of 2.5 weeks later and said, listen, I've had a bid from Huddersfield. You're going to be in and out from now until the end of the season. He said, I don't want you to go. You don't have to go. I says, but I'm just going to let you know. And I always said in my own head, I had 18 months left on my contract, and I just said, I always said that if someone came in and made an offer, I think I would accept it because I felt like the club didn't want me. And Ron was promised the money up front so he could go and invest in the team, which Ron didn't get the money. So yeah, it was because I suppose I needed to go out and find myself a little bit. And And I knew that I would have been in and out the side till the end of the season. And David Platt came in the season after. And, David then went and brought in 3 or 4 centre-backs. So that would have probably limited me even more.
They mentioned David Platt.
That was the right thing to do at the time. But in hindsight, looking back, yes, it was. But would I have liked to have stayed in Nottingham Forest? Of course I would have.
Like I said, when you left for Huddersfield, was you gutted that do you feel like you could have done more playing for Forest, or was it time to leave?
I think if Harry had stayed, I would have stayed, and there wouldn't have been a problem. I would have probably had another 2-3 years, and I would have been in and out, and I would have been accepting of that, because I was still learning my trade as centre back. I'd only been playing centre back 18 months when I got sold to Huddersfield. I'd never played centre back in my life until Harry converted me there. I was still learning a trade, and probably not because it's all about opportunity, luck, and at the time maybe I wasn't good enough to warrant playing in the side week in, week out. When I started the Premier League season, I think I played the first 20 games and I was in and out, back in and out, and left out for 1 or 2. And so had I stayed at the end of the season, I probably would have played 30 odd games that season, which would have been a really good return considering there's only 36 games in the season. As a club, still live in Nottingham, still support the club, still want to see them have loads of success. There now when I was there, which is good to see. A lot of people were made redundant and forced out the club when Fawaz took over, which I thought was a disgrace. But it's a good club with some really good people. Fans are, at least I'm a Sunderland fan, without stereotyping, working class people who have to graft. They just want to see effort. They want to see effort on a football pitch, whether you shit or not. They want to see effort. Forest want to see exactly the same. They want to see effort, but there's an expectation. There's an expectation from the history of the football club and where they expect there should be. 21 years now since we've been in the Premier League. When we were fighting to win the championship under Dave Bassett in 97-98, top of the league, and we're coming off the City Ground pitch at half-time to Stockport County, losing 1-0. That is how Forest fans are. That's how I see them. It's not arrogance. It's just there's an expectation.
100%, yeah.
What I've noticed in the past since the takeover is I've seen an influx of more fans coming back and actually being in the ground for the club and not that expectation. I think they've realised now that it's sort of new. The new sort of fans are coming through. The older ones are sort of going away. That obviously because they're getting older. Great atmosphere when you're doing well. Like any other football club, not a good atmosphere when you're not doing well. Yeah. But the club and the history of the club deserves success, and with this new ownership and Marinakis wants success. He won't, until he's in the Premier League, he won't give up. If manager's not doing it, he'll get a new one in until he gets where he wants to get. And if they can get in the Premier League and sort of consolidate, they've got a great chance to build, because they've got a great city, great football and traditions, and sometimes the history can pull you through as well.
100%. Before, let's just finish back with God now. Chris Hughton as manager, I know everyone's had the doubts with his as manager, been up and down, but personally I think he's the man to do it. Do you think he's the right man to get Forest up to the Premiership, and do you think he needs time?
But every manager needs time. Listen, sometimes when it's not working, when you've had enough time, he needs time. He's got to be able to bring in his own players who he wants. Glenn Murray, great signing.
Fantastic signing.
Great signing. To sort of supplement the quality he's got there already. They need to ship out 3 or 4 players that are on the peripheral who aren't going to play enough football to thin the squad up. He isn't going to breed youngsters into the side. Alex's and Brendan Johnson's are not going to play much football under him because he's not renowned for playing the young kids. But if they are good enough to play in the side, like any other football club, they will play. So unless he doesn't deem them good enough at the moment, then you've got to keep that quality around the squad. Is he the right man? 100%. Yes, he's got to be given time. Is his football entertaining? I don't know. I've not watched enough of it. But listen, football's about winning. Neil Warnock's the biggest one about, and Tony Pulis about. They find a way to get out of a team. I played for Tony Pulis at Gillingham, and we played football. But we did go long when it had to go long. It doesn't matter as long as the football club get out of this division. It doesn't matter. It's about success. Once you get out, if the ownership think that it warrants, at the moment, I think they've got the right man in place, and proof at the moment is they're winning games of football. They've just got to stop. They've got to eradicate mistakes and make sure that they're not conceding silly goals.
Right, I've got some questions from some fans, Craig, and they asked some nice questions. I spoke to Alan, last interview, and as you know, him and Jono, they always used to do some tricks away days. Did you have any bad habits away days with any player?
Listen, I room with Tank quite a lot. To be fair, when we were in the Premier League and the Championship, and we used to get the buckets and fill them up with water and put them up against the door, knock on the door, and then they'd open up the door and the water would gush everywhere. But I just remember listen, we're playing Man United away in the cup, so we played them 3 times that season, and we're stopping at Mottram Hall, and the cleaning lady had obviously been out, so there was loads of bed sheets on things. So what we did is we go knock on Dave Beston's door. He was rooming with Marlon Harewood, and bucket against the door. Door opens, water comes in. So what does he do? He come and does the same. So we're to and froing. Anyway, Best is in the bath. We've told Marlon, we've bullied Marlon to let us in the room. We've soaked his bed, and so under his pillow, covered it in water. So our bed gets done, and then there's a knock at the door, and there's an ironing board up against the door, but you can't see it. So you open up this door, and what Bess had done, he's opened up a couple of yogurt pots, and the door opens up and it falls down, it splats everywhere, all of us. So now while I'm cleaning myself up, I go into the bathroom, I come back out, I get in the bed, and my bed's soaking. I'm like, what the fuck's, like in my head, my head's turning, I'm like, what's going on here? And I feel it's all soaking, it's wet everywhere. And like, so I look over at Tank, I said, Tank, fucking bed's soaking. He goes, I couldn't stop him. I couldn't stop Bess coming in. Oh, mate, I'm sorry. Goes, what do you mean Bess coming? Oh, you're in the bathroom. Bess is coming. He soaked your bed. I'm so sorry. Goes, oh, for fuck's sake. And anyway, the woman that took the trolley away, so I couldn't change my bed sheet. So I'm lying in bed, and I'm sat there about a minute, and I look over and I'm saying, mate, are you taking the piss? No one's knocked at the door. And he just looked at me, started laughing. Oh, I couldn't help myself. He actually, while I'm in the bathroom, he soaked my bed. So I'm ending up sleeping before the game. My bed's soaking. Around. It's just an absolute nightmare. He used to, in Finland.
You speak about Finland.
Well, the way I remember it is he's actually come into my room, and there's a fire. And he's come in my room and can smoke everywhere. And it's one of them fire extinguishers. And obviously we go back to the city ground, and Harry comes in. The way I remember it is Harry came in and said, you little you're fined 2 weeks' wages, you're a disgrace. He said, setting off fire extinguishers. There was a guy called Armstrong who ran one of the teams over there. He's been locked up. It's cost £1,250, blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
To get him out. He said, someone's been throwing this off and someone's been doing, actually, he got fined. He got fined for the we're going to crash on the plane.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So when Harry came in saying about the fire extinguisher, who did that and blah, 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 no one said anything. Bottle's been thrown off. He's been locked up. It's going to cost £1,250. Tank, you for the airplane, what you're doing, and fine you 2 weeks' wages. And as Harry's walking out, he's come back in the room, and whoever set off the fire extinguisher, such and such got arrested. It cost £1,500 to get him out of prison. That needs paying as well. So as Harry walks out, Norm shouts out, Tank, you that as well, you cunt, right? And that was it. And all I remember Alan saying is, okay, Norm, okay. That was it. That's what I remember. Tank will tell you different, but that's what I remember.
Quick question, did you captain Forest one point?
Only a couple of times when we played in sort of cup games. So I captained them in the County Cup final against Notts County. But not so much as in like league games or anything like that. It would have just been like the sporadic games of maybe a cup game or something like that.
Okay, what was it like? I know, what was it like to captain?
It was proud. I mean, when I went to Huddersfield, I was captain of Huddersfield for a short spell while the captain was injured.
Yeah. And
we came back to Huddersfield, won 3-1. Peter Unlove scored 2 goals. 3-0 up. I think Reedy scored the consolation, and I was captain of that. Bart was captain. That was obviously a proud moment for me to be captain for Huddersfield against a team that gave me my opportunity. It's always good to be captain of a side, but you just run around a football pitch, and as long as you give an effort and you pull people through with you, everyone should be a leader on a football pitch, really.
Who's your best manager that you played with?
So Harry Bassett's the best manager I've played with as a manager. He's up there as one of the managers that I respect immensely. Keith Downing, who's a first-team coach at Bristol City, was the assistant manager at the time. Fantastic coach. I played for some good managers. Just, I would say Harry's up there with the best, and obviously the Brian Clough. For the short period I was with him for obviously the 2 years as a schoolboy and 2 years as a scholar pro, to play for someone with that sort of magnitude of a character was just phenomenal.
As a defender, who's the best player that you played against with?
So the best player I played against, Henry, Bergkamp, Vialli, sort of Laudrup. You've then got Mark Hughes, Letizia, list can go on. You've got Dwight, Sheringham, Cole, Solskjaer.
Yeah, you can go on, you can keep going.
Shearer, phenomenal players. The toughest player I played against and the one that I had the most enjoyment playing against was Mark Hughes.
Was that Chelsea?
Yeah, he was at Southampton at the time, but just because I played well against him, but also because he was aggressive in the way he played. I loved the way he played. He was. I would in his peak, I would have loved to play in his team, and would have hated to play against him because he was horrible how he played. The way he used his body, the way he was aggressive, I could see what a talent he was. But I mean, again, Shearer and these type of characters were different in their own right.
Do you miss playing the game, Craig?
I still play Vets football. I play up at Baseford United in the Vets side up there.
Okay.
So I miss playing. I miss that. I've been away from it that long. I miss maybe that interaction and it's great reminiscing about the stories now it was, and you couldn't get away with half that stuff. We couldn't get away with any of it now.
Yeah,
you'd be on social media, you'd be exposed, you'd be fined, you'd be sacked. The era I played in, do I want to play in this era? I would love to play in this era because obviously the monetary values of what it could be.
Yeah.
But this era compared to that is on a par on the type of calibre of play and the Mavericks that were playing, your Gascoignes who I played against and like again, these type of players, the David Batties, these who I think were top talent players, McManamans, Bobby Fowler, Michael Owens, and how can you say it just to what I see now, I think the game's evolved a lot much. Could the players back in my era play now? Yes, they could, because everyone evolved. I do think that the game's got a little bit softer. Too many free kicks, too many fouls are given for needless things. I do think it was a lot harder and a lot more rigorous when you played back in sort of the 90s and 80s and sort of 2000s.
Greg, it's been a pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure to interview you. But like I said, you mentioned the young generation won't know who you are, but I said it was more like the 90s lot did mention you, and I thought to myself, I can't interview you because I know you're still in the game. So,
no, well, yeah. So I mean, I'm in scouting at the moment. So I work for Crystal Palace in recruitment, which I've just joined from Arsenal, which I was at Arsenal for 3 years. It's I went through the coaching route. And I look back now and I think I'm very, very fortunate, very lucky that I've been involved in football since I was obviously 12-year-old up until now, playing professionally, working in an academy system at Stoke City, working in the academy, working in Nottingham Forest in the academy. But I actually feel I've got the best of both worlds, that I find myself very, very fortunate and lucky that I'm in recruitment and I actually enjoy watching games of football more than I do coaching now. Yeah. I enjoy of just going to a game of football, watching some young talents play, whether they be 14, 15-year-old or being 21, 22, or seeing a pathway of a boy at 12-year-old getting to where he's 23, 24 playing for England, see that sort of pathway and how it looks and how it's different sometimes, how the likes of a Jamie Vardy gets released, goes non-league and then becomes the player he is now, how things change. I'm very lucky to be involved in the game still.
Like I said, Craig, it's been a pleasure for interviewing you. But like I said, people, this is Craig Armstrong, ex-Nottingham Forest player. People, if you did enjoy my interview with Craig Armstrong, please do hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. But Craig, like I said, it's been a pleasure and thank you very much for taking your time.
And let me no worries. Just have a fantastic day.
Thank you very much,
Cheers.
Craig.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.